The Witching Hour, March 15th, 2025. Like, subscribe, share, comment. 'Cause you're beautiful. That's why. So if you are one of those rare people that regularly watch my videos, please forgive me because I always have to address people who have never seen these videos before, because so few people watch my videos. Based on my YouTube statistics, last time I looked at them, 98% of my people are watching my videos for the first time. TIs don't want this message. They reject it and they don't watch the videos anymore. They don't want to hear what God tells me to teach and preach to them. They want to hear that they're intuitives, empaths, chosen ones, and that's the reason why they're being targeted. They don't want to hear that they can do something that will result in the Lord reducing their targeting almost to nothing. They don't want to hear that message. They just want to be victims and self-righteous. So I have to say a lot of the same stuff every time so people at least get the message once. The witching hour refers to the period between 12 midnight and 3 a.m. when most Satanism, demon worship, witchcraft is actively being practiced. Okay, it can be seances, orgies, sacrifices, whatever they do to worship Satan. The Lord has me praying during these hours of the witching hour, whenever I am awake and alert, as a means of mocking, spiting, and scorning them, and as a sign against them. So, by the grace of God, I actually did pray in the witching hour. Well, not all of it, y'all. I probably did I started praying, because I like to, when I pray in the witching hour, I like to start praying before the witching hour starts, so before midnight, and then I like to end my prayers after the witching hour ends, after 3 a.m. That's how I like to do my prayers. And so, y'all, I'm looking for something right now. Please forgive me. Oh, wait, did I use all of it? I must have used all of it. I'm looking for some soy milk, y'all, that I'll be putting in my coffee. And it looks like I done used all of it. Yeah, I done used all of it. So we're going to get out some. Oh, no, I have the real milk right here. I forgot. Actually, there was a milk on sale, so I'll put real milk in my coffee. So when I am awake and alert, the Lord has me praying to Him at that time as a way of spiting, mocking, and scorning them, and as a sign against them. And so I did start praying at 11:50. Thereabouts. Started preparing at 11:48, so even 2 minutes earlier than that. And I ended up falling asleep. So I finished probably 2.5 hours worth of prayer in a little over 3 hours, and then I just stopped my timer. So today I've prayed 3 hours and 20 minutes, but a little bit of that I did fall asleep towards the end of my prayers. I have not been sleeping well, y'all. When you start something new, and this week I started learning Pittman shorthand. It's essentially the fastest shorthand that you can do. Apparently in world competitions, folks, the fastest person was clocked at 350 words a minute, and he was using Pittman. So Greg's shorthand apparently is very fast as well once you become proficient with that. But I actually am glad that I chose to go to Pittman, because the symbols in Pittman are much smaller. And I had already learned Century 21 shorthand. Unfortunately, Century 21 shorthand, it's easier to learn. I had just become fluent in it. But the speeds that you can reach in Century 21 shorthand are probably like maybe 200 words a minute. But it's easier to learn, and you can become very fast at it. But another reason that I had stopped is that the symbols that you use, which are basically arcs and lines, and then there's a few little there's like a U shape and a couple of circle shapes, but they're much larger. Like, they vary. Some of them are small and some of them are large, but they wind up taking up the same amount of space as if you were writing in longhand. They're quicker, But again, some of the symbols, they're bigger than like a capital B or a capital T, or as big, and you're using multiples of them. So I didn't like the fact that it took up so much space. And then with Pittman, all the symbols are small. It's a really weird concept, you guys, because some of the symbols are dark and some of them are light. So you're pressing down or you're not pressing down. So they say that Pittman takes longer to learn. And I'm studying it, and I'm very excited. To be honest, I'm very excited. But I do have a sense it's going to take some commitment. But I've been studying that. I started studying that on Sunday. So I've been doing it anywhere from almost like 1 hour to 2 hours a day. But anyway, the point of this witching hour video, the biggest reason I like to put out these videos, just besides being a YouTuber and wanting to become an influencer someday, the Lord willing, is I like to share how God carries me through my prayers, because the attacks on me, the targeting on me during these prayers, it's always been the most intense during my prayers. And the Lord carried me through them just fine. Please grab a pen and paper. I'm about to give you all some scriptures. So, if you do not help the poor, who are the poor? The poor are folks who are homeless, homeless veterans, homeless TIs, sponsoring children in the third world through World Vision, where every child that you sponsor represents an entire family you are potentially saving from starvation. Okay? Malachi chapter 3, God says, if you do not help these folks with tithes and offerings. Literally tithe means tenth. It's because you're supposed to give a tenth of your income to help the poor. I just defined who the poor is. God, in Malachi chapter 3, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob says that if you are not helping these folks, you are robbing him, and that you are cursed. This is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm not cursing you, TIs. I love y'all. I want you to have the wonderful life God has given me in the midst of all this targeting. The Lord renders this program little more than a pathetic joke for me, and he will do the same thing for y'all. Y'all don't need to be having strokes and heart attacks and being stressed, anxious, on edge, barely able to hang in there at all times, because that's not the life I'm living, y'all. So Jesus in Matthew 25 says the same thing. That if you are not helping the poor, you are cursed. Matthew 25. In Ezekiel 16:48 and 49, Ezekiel says, this was the sin of your sister Sodom. She had pride, excess of food, prosperous ease, and she did not aid the poor and the needy. So for so many of you TIs, oh, by the way, I want to throw in there Isaiah chapter 58 and Psalms 41, 1 through 3. For you TIs who are not paying your tithes and offerings, and trust me, they do not want me giving you guys this message. They're happy you guys won't follow it, but they don't like me giving you guys this message, because they know if you should follow it, if you should start tithing your time to the Lord, the way the Lord makes me do, okay, that's 10% of your day is spent with the Lord in prayer. 10% of your day, 2 hours and 24 minutes, minimum. And then you start tithing your money to the Lord and helping the poor. If you do these two things, they know that God is going to begin to manifest himself powerfully on your behalf, just like he does for me. And they're not going to be able to have much power over you, because one of those scriptures tells you that God tells you that he will not hand you over to the will of your enemies if you do these things. So I feel bad for TIs because they refuse to do it. And everyone wants to try to make a bad situation a better situation. And the way TIs are choosing to try to make their bad situation a better situation is by calling themselves empaths, intuitives, chosen ones, like they're X-Men. They're being attacked because they have special powers. Oh, and because they're so righteous. So they don't have the motivation to try to figure out, well, what can they do to make themselves better in the eyes of God, obedient to him, so that they can experience his miracle working power. But that's it. Tithing your time to the Lord, tithing your money to the Lord. That's what you can do. And if you do that, I'm here to tell you, God's going to do for you just like he does for me. He's going to render this TI program a little more than a pathetic joke for you, just like he does for me. Y'all, I am supposed to be taking lactase whenever I drink milk. Even when it's just that little bit of milk that I poured in this coffee. I poured in, wasn't really that little. It's like maybe 3 ounces. I love cow's milk, y'all, but it gives me, if I don't take lactase, y'all, it gives me bloating, cramps, indigestion, gas, the brown squirts. It's very unpleasant. If I do take the lactase, then I still get gas and the brown squirts, but at least it's much more bearable. So that's what's up there. I had to take me some of that lactase, y'all. But God carries me through all these attacks that they perpetrate against me when I'm praying. The Lord carries me through all of them. So for a lot of UTIs, I know you guys don't pray because I watch you guys TI channels. You don't even talk about prayer. All you do is talk about the program, the TI program, like it rules you. It don't have to rule you. Be ruled by God. I'm telling you, it's a good thing to be ruled by God, by our Creator. It's a good thing. Yes, you have to humble yourself before him. But I'd rather be subject to and ruled by God than to be ruled by this doggone program. This program ain't no kind of nice, y'all. So, and that's what carries me through the prayers, because they cannot stand you praying, y'all. I'm just telling you straight up, they do not want you praying to God. They don't want you meditating on love, which is another thing the Lord has told me to do. The Lord told me to do that non-stop. So I pursue it. Meaning I try to meditate on the word love non-stop. But because the Lord will not hand me over to the will of my enemies, I'm not stressed out because of this program, you guys. I'm not anxious. I'm not barely hanging in there. Yes, I do get hit with DEWs in particular for hours at a time sometimes, y'all. For hours at a time. With fear vibrations for hours at a time. The fear vibrations used to make it hard for me to leave my room because they provoke fear. They provoke fear and dread. They don't anymore. I'm excited. I tend to be more excited about leaving my room than anxious or fearful, because the Lord has even told me this. He's like, don't worry, I know you're anxious about leaving your room. He says, but I'll make it easy and fun for you. The Lord makes it fun when I leave my room, you guys. He makes this, at times he makes all this targeting entertaining for me, y'all. That's because God has a sense of humor. God laughs at his enemies. It ain't me. I'm not sitting there saying, oh, I laugh at this program. This program used to have me like I was at my wit's end. But the more I drew on God, the more I paid them tithes and offerings and prayed, eventually the Lord led me into that I have to include fasting. And I do praise him almost every day, probably every day in song, at least at the minimum with a few songs. So when you praise God, that blocks the targeting to a certain extent as well. It blocks the it will block the remote neural monitoring, the brainwave patterning. It will actually block that for you. The Lord will block that for you. Praise his holy name. So this is what God has for y'all. He has salvation from this program, y'all, but y'all need to turn to him in obedience and follow what he's told me to teach and preach to y'all. I send out my love to all y'all. God bless.